What if omnipresence was actually something that we could achieve? Yeah, okay. I'm not talking about being God here, y'all, but I am talking about the fact that wouldn't it be great if we could duplicate ourselves? Like we've been talking about that for a long time, right? Like there've been jokes forever. How can we get an eighth day in the week? How can I clone myself? So on and so forth. Well, what if it's starting to be possible? And this is something I've been thinking about working on and looking at over the last really almost 8 weeks or so. I want to kind of share with you where I've been and what I've done and what's come out of it, right? Because the world right now is full of lots of AI assistants that say, "Oh, I'm going to go check your email," or "I'm going to," and it's supposed to make your life so much easier and blah 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 blah. Claude came out, or I should say, Anthropic came out with their own in co-work. OpenAI came out with their own version, et cetera, et cetera, and then they're the ones that take it a little bit further and kind of encapsulate a lot of things for you, and they kind of do things right out of the box for you, which OpenAI and Anthropic don't do, right? Well, those assistants were designed to just kind of assist you in things and take things off of your plate that were routine, mundane, took up a lot of your time, et cetera, et cetera. But that does give you more time. But let's also face it, you probably weren't spending a lot of time on those things anyway. Those were the things that got pushed off, that didn't really get done. So it's great that they're getting done now. It is, right? It's great that someone's actually reading my email now, because I wasn't. It is, but it doesn't really help you at the higher level stuff. It doesn't really help you at the stuff that really moves the needle. It makes more time for you to do that stuff, but it doesn't really help you at that level. And so that's where I was about 8 or so weeks ago. And 8 or so weeks ago, I started having a conversation with Claude Code. And the conversation I started having with Claude Code revolved around the fact that in the pivot that I've been making over the last 18 months within our marketing agency, is that I wanted to get to a place where, and bear with me as I talk about this, y'all, but I wanted to get to a place where the company itself worked for 3 weeks and then took an entire week off. Margin is a really big thing. And getting my staff margin in their lives is a really big thing. So you get paid for 4 weeks, but you work 3. And every month we take an entire week off. Now, we do a real small subset of that in some ways right now. But it isn't nearly that. But that's been my goal. And it's been my goal for a while to get us there. And so I started having this conversation with Claude about how to actually get us there, with Claude Code to be exact, about how to actually get us there. And for me, there are certain benchmarks that have to be hit. There are certain markers that have to be in place, certain things that have to be true in order for that to happen and for the company to be able to sustain. So I started explaining some of these things to Claude Code. And then it started asking me even more questions and more questions and more questions and more questions and more questions. And as it asked me more and more and more questions, it started asking me more and more questions about me and my philosophies and how I thought and my frameworks and the things that would be required in order for us to create this type of organization and have this type of organizational culture where this actually could work well, right? Forget even the plan of how to get there, just the organizational culture and making that cultural shift, right? So that the plan could then get executed well. Well, that quickly grew into Claude basically saying, "Hey, I really need to understand everything that you're working on and everything that you're doing." And what we ended up creating was, and I say we because this was me and Claude, was Claude created a brain of me. And then every single project that's in my mind, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, you probably could resonate. You got a lot of projects, a lot of ideas in your mind right now, a lot of things floating around, right? Like that's kind of how we live. And often that leads to a lot of half-built bridges, right? And projects just never finish or never even get started, just fleeting ideas. Well, as I started giving Claude Code all of these different projects and ideas and things that we're working on and so on and so forth, I started realizing that, what if this actually worked where Claude Code acted as an orchestrator, and then it had a thinking partner, something that was futuristic, the way my brain works, right? Very, very futuristic, very, very thinking about the bigger picture and the rosy colors, because that's the way my brain works. But the shortcoming that I always have is I have all of these grandiose ideas, but then there's no actual implementation plan and movement through it. And oftentimes I get a quarter of the way through this grandiose idea, and then the next grandiose idea comes, and then I'm off to this, and I forget where I was with this, and then it never gets done. Half-built bridges. So we started having this conversation about, well, what if we had an orchestrator, a thinking partner, and a project manager? The thinking partner who is rooted in the possibilities, and then the project manager that's rooted in the here and now, the execution, right? And making sure that things get finished and executed. And so we started thinking through that and what that would look like, and we started building that, right? But then as we were building that, and as I was putting data into it, then I got to a place where it was like, okay, well, I'm putting this in, but this is also related to this other project. And Claude just wasn't making the connection. It wasn't making the connections that, oh, this is related to this and that's related to that and all these different projects, because the projects then started being separate conversations, all tied back in the brain, but it wasn't all clicking together. Okay. So now I'm sitting there and I've got three agents: the orchestrator, the thinking partner, and the project manager, who are using the brain and also now looking at the different projects that are going on. And I started saying, well, we need to start surfacing relevance between things, because that's really where the thinking partner is at its greatest, is when it can start to see the big picture and all the pieces that are coming together. And so then we started brainstorming on that, and we built this topical mind map agent that takes everything and can connect all the different dots, right? Both from a topical, a semantic, a theoretical perspective. And everything now is starting to get linked together. So now when I'm working in this project, Claude is able to pull up something from another project that's related and say, hey, we can reuse this over here, or we already did this over here. We can pull this in and extend it a little bit. And so now I'm really feeling like, oh, this is great. And that got me to a place, y'all. That got me to a place where for the first time, my brain went silent for a little while, because I didn't have to think through all this stuff, because there's a piece that I missed. And so the other piece that we built in there was, okay, well, you need to communicate with me what's going on, and you need to keep me up to date. And so the project manager kind of takes that over, right? And so the project manager sends me every single morning a morning brief of, hey, here are the things that have to get done today. And so what the project manager is doing is looking across all of the projects, all of the ideas, all of the things that are going on, all of the client meetings, everything, looking across everything and making determinations based on the project plans that it produced. What needs to get done today? What are the needle movers today? And then it checks in at the end of the day with me, what got moved, what didn't, why, et cetera, and then plans the next day. And then all of a sudden, my brain went quiet, because my brain finally realized I didn't have to think through all that stuff anymore. I didn't have to keep it all in my head anymore. It was all there. It was all there. And so, super excited about it, because it literally is an extension of my brain. I was able to train this thing, which we now call Athena. I was able to train Athena on all of my frameworks, I fed it everything. I literally was able to open up my Google Drive and just say, hey, here's my Google Drive, go read. And go surface stuff. And go surface patterns. Go read. I was able to tap it into my go high level. So now it understands the pipeline. It understands our cash flow. It understands everything. And so now it knows everything. And my brain can be free. My brain can be free. And now when my brain is free and it can go dream and create something else, now it goes and dreams and creates something else. And I just go into Athena and say, hey, here's a new project that I'm thinking about. And then she asks me some follow-up questions, and then she plans the whole thing out. She plans the whole thing out. Yo, that was game-changing for me. And I'm sharing this with you because all of these assistants that they're selling you on the market right now, they can't do that. Yeah, they're doing little things for you, and that's cool and all. But the big needle movers, where you really need the help, the big things where you really, they can't. And the only way you're going to get there is if you get over the fear and you build it yourself. And what I want you to hear is, when I say you build it yourself, I told you how I built it. I went and I said, hey, here's my challenge. And I had a conversation, and we have conversationally built this over time, over the last 8 weeks. Now, some of the things that are absolutely required are, I'm a stickler about building frameworks and having strong principles and values that we live by. And so we had all of those already that I can just feed it, and then she can learn, and then she can understand. So now she's doing all of our web pages, all of our emails. She's taking over everything because now she actually understands the way I think. But okay, that doesn't get you to omnipresent. And that's what we kind of started this with, right? So that's where I was about 4 weeks ago, and I was loving life. And then because I was interacting both in Claude Code at the command line and in Slack with Athena when I was out and about and not at a physical computer, I then started asking the question, what would it look like if my staff had access to Athena? What would it look like if my staff had access to my brain anytime they needed it? What would that look like? And so Athena and I started that conversation as well. And y'all, what that has turned into, and I'm gonna see if I can show this to you here. No. This is great. Hold on. Clearly, I didn't plan this technology video well enough. Let me put this over here. Okay. And so what this has kind of turned into is something that we call the dojo inside of an area, if you will, in our company called MMR Labs, where we get to actually go and use the principles of Kaizen and do continuous improvement. Well, the dojo is where we get to go actually exercise the things that we're learning. And so Athena has now 3 different agents that come together inside of the dojo to help teach curriculum to my staff. But now the thing about that is, and you and I both know, if you teach somebody something, it doesn't mean that they actually understood what you taught them. It doesn't mean that they remembered it, that they retained it, that they got what was supposed to be gotten, if you will, right? And so Athena, inside of the dojo, has 3 different agents. So there is the curriculum writer, there's the teacher,
And then there's this third one that's kind of the learner and the observer. And the way this works is the observer is observing the way that each staff member learns, and then is informing the curriculum writer about how the staff member learns to adjust the curriculum, and informing the teacher of the learning style of the staff member so that the teacher can then adjust how they're teaching the lesson to the learner, right? And so then every single week now in individual sessions, each learner is learning, but they're learning and being taught in a way that works exactly for the way their brain works, not just everyone's learning the exact same thing. On top of all of that, because this is tied into work that they're doing actually on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, their actual jobs, Athena then isn't giving them homework. It's saying, hey, go produce your work product and come back and show me your work product. And then it's evaluating, the teacher is evaluating their work product based on what they were supposed to learn. And then the observer is noticing those patterns as well to tell the curriculum agent, hey, here's how we need to adjust the curriculum because they didn't quite understand this point or that point. So it's a complete comprehensive system built around the learner. Now, what they get inside of Slack here is they get the lessons, and they even get a leaderboard to show how they're doing as compared to the other learners who are learning the same thing there. Building in a little bit of competition, right? Because, some people are motivated by that. And then at the end of the week, every single week, I get a scorecard that then goes through and shows, okay, what did the learners learn this week? Who's participating? Where are we? What did we learn about them? Etc. Etc. And so I couldn't possibly do this with everyone. And as we're starting to build more and more apps, everyone on the team is building apps that are helping what they do on a daily basis.
Well, Athena has access to all of their GitHub repositories. And if you don't know what that is, we can talk about it later, but understand Athena knows all of their apps and what they're building. And Athena now on a weekly basis is coaching them through building and finishing their app. Yeah. But wait, that's all great, Atiba, but can it do more? Yeah, she can. It can. Because the thing that we also did is I've got some of my higher level paying clients who get more of my attention and services. And for all of them, we've now built an Athena Partners app, which lives inside of Slack that understands me, my brain, and can communicate with them about their business and the projects we're working on with them. Yeah. Omnipresent. Now, for a bunch of people who have seen this and I've talked to about this, they've said, hey, can I get an Athena? Can I just take your Athena? No, you can't. And you can't because I literally built this for me. And it's tied into my ethos and the way I work. But what I want you to hear is there was nothing special that I did. I had a conversation with Claude Code. And if you love ChatGPT and you want to use whatever they call it now, because they changed the name from Codex, you can use that too. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter which platform you use. Okay? But the point here is I've just had a running conversation over the last 8 weeks that has created Athena that now has allowed me to literally put my tentacles, if you will, in so many different places simultaneously and accomplish so much more at a high level because I didn't have time to sit and teach NLP training to everyone. And just giving them a book doesn't really do it. Just giving them a lecture doesn't really do it. I don't have time to go through all of their work every single weekend and adjust. But now I do, because Athena can. Athena can. So, how would you use an Athena? I want you to think about that. And then I want you to go open Claude Code. Don't get scared by the word. Go open Claude Code and start having a conversation. Start having the conversation. Because you'll be surprised 8 weeks from now, like I am, how far you've got.